Recording in progress.
Okay, I'm going to be calling this regular meeting of council to order. First, I'd like to acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on the traditional territory of the Stanawas First Nation. First item on the agenda is adoption of the agenda. So I'll make the motion, it's probably simpler that way, that the December 1st, 2021 regular council meeting agenda be adopted with additional information for item 9G. Is there a seconder to that? Second by Councillor Savage. Any discussion on agenda? Okay, go ahead, Councillor Gusselbach.
Thank you. I'd like to make an amendment, and that amendment is to move items 12C and 12D immediately following item 8, public input period.
Okay, so sorry, you want 12? Can you just repeat that, Councillor Gusselbach?
12C and 12D.
Immediately following public input, okay. And that's second by Councillor Proctor. Any further amendments, or we can just vote on that amendment? So we'll call the question on the amendment, or you gotta, okay, go ahead.
Yes, just to say I disagree with this. We're given our agendas and there's virtually no chance whatsoever we won't get through it tonight. So there's no reason to juggle agendas. We'll just take them in order as staff have given them, in my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, so unless there's any further discussion, I will call the question. So all those in favor and opposed, knowing that Councillor Savage is opposed, the amendment carries. So now we're back to the agenda as amended. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, I will call the question. All those in favor and opposed, knowing that Councillor Savage is opposed, it's the agenda is adopted. That takes us on to the start of the consent agenda, so number 7 of our agenda. So I'll just make the recommendation that the recommendations listed for 7A to 7B in the consent agenda be approved. I have a seconder to that. Second by Councillor Gusselbach. And I will move to call in question. All those in favor, opposed, that is carried unanimously. And that takes us to public input period. So I'll just read out the preamble to this. So persons recognized by the chair to speak must first state their name and their address for the record, may speak once for up to 2 minutes unless council resolves otherwise, and are limited to providing comment regarding items listed on the council agenda for this meeting. This excludes public hearing topics, which we don't have any. And comments must be directed to the chair and not to be directed to individual council members, staff, or the audience, and must not include personnel issues. Should we do the registered one and then, okay. All right, so we do have one registered speaker, and this is Joan Jones. So if Joan Jones, if you can hear me, if you can please state your name and address for the record, please, and you have 2 minutes.
My name is Joan Jones. I live at 7255 Ellesmere Drive. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I respectfully address the mayor and council regarding agenda item 9D, a motion to rescind the vote held at the November 17th meeting. There was no discussion to council at council on this motion. There's been no recommendation from staff that the motion to waive a public hearing be discussed further at tonight's meeting. Like many residents, I am aware that a public hearing is due process for significant density changes to the zoning of a property. The property is currently zoned R1. The acreage of the property is 8 acres. It is permitted to have 2 acres, 2 lots per acre. The motion to amend the bylaw would rezone the property as a mobile home park. This would allow an investor to purchase for development as a mobile home park and to build to the maximum permitted density. According to the OCP, the land would support up to 8 units per acre, a total of 64 units. Normally, a public hearing is necessary before third reading for a significant rezoning. Do the people of Lantzville want this land rezoned to a mobile home park, or do they want to maintain the current R1 zoning? residents should be given the opportunity to express their views verbally. For council to waive a public hearing would be to show that they do not wish to hear the view of residents. I respectfully request that council revisit this motion with discussion and debate. Furthermore, the accompanying text under item 9D in tonight's agenda states that, and I quote, "The contents of bylaw number 290 were intended to include as a miscellaneous amendment matters which were felt to be convenient to include together as not being particularly controversial, but in view of the concerns that were expressed at the council table, as well as legal issues raised on the process." End quote. I and perhaps many residents am perplexed by the phrase legal issues raised on the process. Through the mayor to staff, please clarify, what are the legal issues? What process has raised these legal issues? Why are these legal issues of such concern that staff has taken the unprecedented measure of putting a motion to council to rescind their vote? May staff explain, please?
Okay,
Thank you.
Ms. Jones, that's your time. And this is input, so staff will not be responding. Any additional speakers registered? Okay, thank you. So I will call to the gallery. This is the first time we've had a gallery in quite some time. So the normal procedure is just raise your hand and then come to the microphone. Again, state your name and address for the record. There is some sanitary wipes there if you want, or disinfecting wipes. If you want to use that.
I haven't touched anything on my way in. Your worship, I would like to make a few comments about item 9D on tonight's agenda. Oh,
So name and address, please, for
Brian
the
Blood,
record. Yeah.
7075 Colette Road. It's not just us.
Councilor, hold on just 2 seconds, Mr. Blood. Councilor Gusselbrecht.
Point of information, was that 9B as in boy or 9D as in dog?
Okay. So,
9D.
Thank you.
It's not just us here in the gallery waiting for the conduct of that particular item, but many residents are watching with fascination, and there will be personnel from the Attorney General's office and the Office of the Minister of Municipal Affairs scrutinizing tonight's procedure. MLA Adam Walker's office also expressed interest. There is interest whether there will be 5 council members participating, and if a member is not participating, whether or not we will be told why. All of you promised transparency 3 years ago. I don't have to tell the people in this room that the integrity of not just local governance in Lantzville, but the integrity of municipal governance in British Columbia is in the spotlight here. There are consequences for how this particular item goes. I notice in Pravda that arrived today from the district that, for example, to get water to the winds, we are going to need provincial and federal grants. We're not going to get provincial and federal grants unless the district is clean and seen to be clean. And that's not going to happen, as you know, because there's 5 of you sitting here. I think you know what I mean.
additional speakers. Okay, and so we have Mr. Scott Mack. He is going to, well, I'll let you introduce yourself and the item that you're speaking to.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Scott Mack with Townsite Planning, and my address is 6670 Elm Road in Lantzville. I'm here this evening with my client, Sheila Braden, on behalf of our application for a development variance permit for 7702 Lantzville Road, which is item 9G in your agenda. I don't have a great deal to say tonight, as I feel that we outlined our proposal in the application along with the supplemental information that was submitted today, except to reinforce that our application for a carriage house is rooted in family need and care for the owner's adult son, who was seriously injured in a workplace accident a number of years ago and is not able to live independently. A carriage house would provide him with semi-private, semi-independent space, but keep him close to his family. We understand that the access to this property does not meet the access standards set out in the zoning bylaw, which is the primary reason for the variance request. However, we believe that we have demonstrated that the existing access can and it does function very well. And importantly, we have unanimous support from every one of the neighbors on the lower portion of Blowhorn Road the same owners who share this access. Therefore, we hope that council will support our application. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to address them when you get to that item on the agenda. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. Additional speakers? And again, just state your name and address for the record, please.
Warren Griffey, 6995 Lancewood Avenue, Lantzville, BC. So I'm here, I'm trying to decide what I want to really pick on here, but I'm going to go with just starting at the top. The automotive repair is a definition that's proposed to include personal watercraft. The definition of automotive itself is pertaining to motor vehicles, not all of the motorized items. I can call a cat, I can call a dog, so why is this being changed in the definition in order to fit a personal watercraft? Now, November 17th, staff makes no mention of personal watercraft or boats. Why did the planner not include any such comments noting the fundamental changes? The survey had a direct support for discussion regarding boat repairs, so how does it make it into the bylaw with no explanation in a staff report? During the council meeting, staff questioned the source of the amendment related to the boat repair, and neither of any members of council, or more importantly, no members of staff, including the planner, CAO, Director of Corporate Admin, offered any explanation or clarification. The agenda December 1st, the actual agenda, not the attachments, includes an explanation, background discussion. This does not happen on any other agenda, so why now? Normally, this is part of the staff report within the agenda attachments. Why is there no staff report explaining both the concerns expressed by this council's table as well as the legal process concerns? If you listen to the audio, I'm not even going to go into that. Actually, I will. If you listen to the audio on November 24th,
Griffey.
the response to Councillor Savage's amendments to remove personal watercraft from the definition of automobile repair, Councillor Gieselbrick turns to Councillor Wilson and it states,
Okay,
going to
Mr.
get-
Griffey.
Gieselbrick is
Mr.
aware-
Griffey, we're not going to go there in terms of talking about conduct of council members
Okay.
during the meeting.
Okay. Then I'm just going to ask one last question. And that question would be that when they put in the word hull, there's no mention of it anywhere else except for when it comes on the 17th. Why is that? Why did it not, and why does Councillor Savage, why is he not allowed to speak to it? Why is he cut off by the rest of council? I just don't understand it. It's unfair. It's undemocratic.
Okay. Additional comments or, public input? Okay, hearing or seeing none, we will move, unless there's any further registered. Okay. We'll move on in our agenda. So we have our reshuffling of our agendas. We have item 12C coming next, which is the approving officer appointment. So that's in 12C of our agenda. Someone prepared to make that motion? Okay, go ahead, Councillor Wilson.
That Frank Limshoe, Director of Planning and Community Services, be appointed as approving officer, and further that Ronald Campbell, CAO, be appointed as deputy approving officer pursuant to the Land Title Act.
Okay, and do we have a seconder to that? Second by Councillor Gusselbrecht. Discussion on the motion, so through to Councillor Wilson if you wish, and then through to Councillor Gusselbrecht.
No, nothing to add.
Okay, Councillor Gusselbrecht.
I think this is fairly straightforward. We had a recent departure of our former planner, Director Kyle Young, and fortunately, I say fortunately because some of us know Mr. Limshoe, who was the previous planner here in Lantzville, and I have nothing but utmost confidence in Mr. Limshoe to carry on his duties as our new Director of Planning, and we have to appoint a deputy approving officer, and that would be CAO Campbell. So I think that's pretty straightforward. I'll be supporting this motion.
Okay, additional speakers on the motion, so through to you, Councillor Savage.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to welcome Director Limshoe back to Lantzville. And for the past 2 years, the previous approval officer process did not request or require parkland in many of the rezoning applications of 2 to 7 acres. The same attitude then showed up in the approval officer process, for example, specifically a 7.5 acre subdivision, which required no rezoning, but no parkland was required, so we missed out on 0.38 acres of parkland for a trail, greenway, or a nature park.
Okay, Councillor Savage, I'm going to interrupt you. I need you to speak to the motion, which is basically the appointments. So unless you're going to come around quickly.
Yep, I'm getting to the,
appointments.
I'm just prefacing my point, please. And the OCP is full of references to trails, greenways, nature, not to mention the value of forest infrastructure to mitigate flooding, like we recently had an episode in most of BC, or to mitigate air pollution. The OCP states any density bonusing should be accompanied by more parkland than the required 5%,
Okay.
plus
Councillor
a community
Savage,
amenity.
I need you to get to your,
Okay,
why you're
so
speaking to
to
this.
Director Limshu, can you assure council, as the upcoming approval officer, you will follow the OCP's prescription for trail networks, greenways, and parkland, as well as the age-friendly plan, and take advantage of new subdivisions to acquire public land for trails, greenways, and parkland instead of continual cash in lieu?
Okay, so through to Councillor Savage, I'm not going to have Mr. Limshu respond to that, and I'll turn it over to our Director of Corporate Administration she could probably sum it up a lot more eloquently than what I can, but it's...
Just that the motion would be out of order, or the question would be out of order.
The question is out of order, yes.
It's, council is prohibited from influencing the approving officer. Your opportunity is through your bylaws, and this is a request to appoint somebody. It's not an interview.
So speaking to the appointments directly, Councillor Savage.
Yes, so, well, in that case, I won't be supporting this since we have no assurance we're going to be getting adequate parkland for subdivisions that don't require rezoning. Thank you.
Okay. Additional speakers to the appointment motion? Okay. Hearing seen none, I will call the question. All those in favor and opposed, knowing Councillor Savage is opposed, that's carried. That takes us on to 12D of our agenda. So we have the draft letter, so I'll just make the motion that the draft letter of support for the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 275 2021 grant application for the New Horizons for seniors be sent substantially in the form dated December 2nd, 2021. Do I have a seconder to that? So a second by Councillor Savage. Discussion on the motion. I think this one is pretty straightforward by all accounts. So through to the seconder, if you wish. Okay. Nothing. And through the rest of the council. Additional speakers on this item. Okay. I will move to calling the question. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. All right, so that takes us back to 9A of our agenda. So under legislative matters, we have bylaw number 287. Someone prepared to make this motion? Okay, I'll just simply make the motion that the District of Lantzville Council Procedure Bylaw number 141-2020, Amendment Bylaw number 287-2021 be adopted. Is there a seconder to this? So seconded by Councillor Proctor. And we're at the adoptions. There's no debate, so I will call the question. All those in favor and opposed, knowing Councillor Savage is opposed, it carries. That takes us on to bylaw number 288, that the District of Lantzville 2021 to 2025 financial plan, bylaw number 261-2020, amendment bylaw number 288-2021 be adopted. Do I have a seconder to that? So seconded by Councillor Gusselbrecht this time. Again, we're at the adoption, so I will I'll just call the question, sorry. So all those in favor and opposed, knowing that Mayor Swain and Councillor Savage are opposed, bylaw is adopted. So that now takes us on to bylaw number, make sure I'm on track here. Yeah, 9C. So we have bylaw number 289 that the District of Lantzville 20 to 2022 to 2026 financial plan at bylaw number 289 2021 be adopted. So second by Councillor Kesselbreck, and I will move to call into question. All those in favor and opposed, knowing Mayor Sweeney and Councillor Savage is opposed, the bylaw carries. That takes us on to bylaw number 290. There's a motion on the floor, or no, sorry, it's not on the floor. Is someone prepared to? So Councillor Wilson?
Given this motion has been brought on the basis that I may have been in a conflict of interest when I voted on bylaw 290 on November 17th, I consider that I am not entitled to participate in this vote, and I am declaring a conflict pursuant to section 100, brackets 2 of the community charter.
And as a point of order, please.
Okay, what's your point of order?
It's generally stated the reason why.
Well,
In
he's
the
already-
Local Government Act, the general reason why.
Yeah, I think he, well, through to Director Coates, did you catch the last bit? You'll probably have to watch it back in the video, but. Yeah, so, and I believe he quoted the part of the community charter. Yeah,
Yeah, no, but the reason for the conflict in the Local Government Act, it says to state you're in conflict and give a general reason why. But the general reason why wasn't stated.
okay, noted. So that moves us, so Councillor Wilson has declared conflict, so it's left a meeting. I think Director Coates has a time on that, so I think it's 6:20. Go ahead, Councillor Kesselbreck.
Yes, I'd like to make the following motion. That the district, that the following motion, C21-187, passed November 17th, 2021, be rescinded. Shall I read the motion that was passed as well?
Yeah, I believe that would be in order.
All right.
Councillor Kesselbreck.
That the District of Lantzville zoning bylaw number 180-2020 amendment miscellaneous bylaw number 290-2021 be given first and second reading as amended in section 2G1 after quote auto body, close quote, by adding quote hull. And further, that the District of Lantzville zoning bylaw number 180-2020 amendment miscellaneous bylaw number 290-2021 is consistent with the District of Lantzville official community plan number 150-2019. And further, that the district waive the holding of a public hearing for District of Lantzville zoning bylaw 180-2020 amendment miscellaneous bylaw number 290-2021.
Okay, we have a seconded by Councillor Proctor. Discussion on the motion, so through to the mover and seconder, so Councillor Kesselbreck, if you wish, and then Councillor
Thank you.
Proctor.
Through to staff, is there a reason why this particular item was included in the agenda for this evening?
Your Worship, through you to council, it was brought to my attention by Councillor Wilson that he may be in conflict. So we got a legal opinion, and the legal opinion is that we put this back on the agenda for council to possibly, if they agree, rescind it, and then revote on the amendments without small motorcraft.
Thank you.
Or actually motor repair.
Yeah, well, there's several items in here. Okay, now I understand. And I recall this discussion at the last meeting, and it went on for approximately an hour and a half. There was an amendment by Councillor Savage I don't think that passed. There's another amendment by the mayor to include the word hull before, I think it was watercraft. And that motion passed. And the balance of the bylaw was passed. So I can support this, especially if staff have a legal opinion that this bylaw might be attacked because of a conflict. And I think it's our duty as counselors to protect the bylaws that we pass, and if there's a potential problem, to deal with it. And I think rescinding would go a long way to doing that. And later on, if we wish to pass the non-offending items, we can do it. But what I don't support is waive the holding of a public hearing. I think at this point that should be on the table. So I will make an amendment to this motion.
Maybe just hold off, Councillor
Yep.
Gusselbrecht. It's probably not in order to make an amendment to the
Yeah.
rescinding.
For clarity, this isn't a motion to change history. It's not a motion to, what am I trying to say? This is a motion to rescind the motion
Okay.
as it was passed. Like you can't change it and then rescind it. Like it's,
My apologies. I understand that. Thank you.
Okay, additional speakers, so Councillor Proctor,
I don't have anything at this time.
and through the rest of council. So Councillor Savage, go ahead.
Yeah, just a couple of quick clarifications, please, through to staff. The other reason given for rescinding the bylaw was the potential need for further debate or discussion on the aspect of automotive repair. So I'm just wondering why this would be included as a reason for rescinding the first and second reading of a bylaw when third reading of the bylaw would provide ample opportunity for further debate or discussion of the automotive repair.
Your Worship, through you to council, the legal opinion that we have, which we have in writing from our lawyer now, he suggests that the best way to deal with it, to protect the municipality and protect the bylaw, is to rescind it completely and start afresh with a new bylaw. And that's what you see it before you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just trying to clarify if this is new policy, that if there is not adequate discussion deemed in first and second reading, if you rescind the bylaw, or if there were concerns expressed by some at the council table, if that would also be a reason to rescind the bylaw, that's all.
So is that a question,
Yes.
Councillor Savage? So,
Yeah.
so in terms of policy, I don't believe there's a policy, so I think that's the answer to your question. Unless staff has anything further to add.
Yeah, so is this a new policy of these two other items that were used as a reason to rescind?
So I think your microphone was off, Director Coates.
no.
Okay, thank you.
For myself, this is kind of interesting is in the fact that I feel like I simply don't have the information in front of me to make a truly informed decision about this. I have not read the legal opinion to evaluate it for myself. We've kind of heard now that, the councillor may be in conflict. It's one of these things that you either are in conflict or you're not, but it's been stated that he may be in conflict, so I don't know the full extent of the information surrounding that. Again, with the legal opinion, I don't know, I need to read it to really make heads or tails of it. I'm not a lawyer, however, I believe this early in the process, if we're just at first and second reading, we're now considering taking a substantial part out of it, in my opinion, which is the automotive repair. which doesn't sit well. Even the reasons that are provided in the background information, you know, the reasons provided that are not in parentheses is essentially, where are we here? Just making sure I got this correct. It's, you know, talking about the controversial issue, that's what it was. And I felt at that meeting, the controversial issue was the Blackjack Crescent, the Blackjack Road trailer park. That was the contentious issue at that meeting. Just watch it for yourself. It is clearly the contentious issue. With respect to automotive repair and the amendments that surrounded that, those were fairly mundane, really. There's nothing significant or controversial about it at the time. So for me, you know, I don't know if it necessarily we need to abandon the bylaw at this stage. I think we can go to third reading and have further debate on it and look at this further in terms of perhaps reconsidering the waiving of the public hearing. But based on the debate that occurred last meeting, the majority view of this council was seemed pretty convinced that this is the correct direction to go. That was the will of council. It was a pretty strong will of council, in my opinion, regardless of what side of the vote. We have to respect that. So I'll listen to the rest of the council's debate on this, but and make a decision following that. Councillor Proctor.
Thank you. I have a question through you to staff. If we don't vote to rescind this bylaw, it's only passed first and second reading, what will happen to it?
Yeah, go ahead, through to Director Coates.
We have received, first of all, I just want to emphasize that staff have a duty to act in the best interest of the municipality and the bylaws that we are presenting to you. So our opinion was in relation to, was the bylaw at jeopardy? The advice that we received was the cleanest method is to rescind that bylaw and start afresh with a new bylaw, bring out the issue separately in the future if council wishes to, as a separate bylaw. So the core question you're asking is what would happen to this bylaw if you do not rescind it? It would sit. It would simply sit there at second reading. Also on the agenda tonight is for council consideration a new bylaw, identical to the last bylaw, with the exception that it doesn't include the automotive repair piece and the hull. And so council could still proceed to process that bylaw.
And-
However, we would be remiss if we started the process to move the other bylaw ahead because we've received advice not to.
Thank you. So, and thank you for following the legal advice. So I'm wondering, if we rescind this bylaw, is it strucken from the public record? Like, do you erase the videotape of the meeting? Do you burn all copies of it? Like, or it's going to be part of the public record if it's rescinded or not, am I correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, nothing has changed, and that is exactly why we said no, there would be no amendment to the motion. That is the motion that occurred at that time. We don't change history. Bylaws are created. This isn't anything new. There's bylaws that are abandoned at different points. Sometimes they're abandoned through a rescind motion. Sometimes they're just
Sometimes
abandoned
they're just-
because they're not moved along.
Thank you. I think that's all I have.
Okay, through to the rest of the council. So for myself, through staff, maybe I'm just confused here, but so if we do not vote in favor of rescinding the bylaw, is this going to sit at first and second reading?
That's our advice. That's our legal advice and our staff advice.
Okay. Again, for myself, where I'm troubled with this, rescinding it completely is there's parts of this that I feel in the background information don't necessarily line up with my historical account of that meeting. And again, it has to do with, you know, what was controversial in that meeting. And in my opinion, what was controversial in that meeting, and I'm not going to get into a back and forth with staff on this. Staff has stated it in the report or in our agenda here, but the controversial part was the Blackjack, you know, trailer park rezoning. That was the controversial part of that meeting by far. And that's going to remain in our bylaw. And why that isn't being taken out kind of puzzles me. So anyways, I feel like I don't have all the information, and I don't have the legal opinion in front of me and I get to see for myself. And I feel that at a minimum, before we even move ahead on this and maybe through to council, maybe this is the next best step, is to get a staff report back clearly outlining what happened. You know, in terms of, now we've heard this evening from CAO Campbell, the chain of events that kind of led to this, and now we are here. So it's not a simple situation, and you know, the public is watching our move on this, and in terms of transparency and visibility of what people see, and I think it's important that we have more information available. So I would like to have that information. Excuse me, there's no clapping, thank you. Director Coates, and then
Yeah.
Councillor Gusselbrook.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, and not to speak to another item on the agenda, but if the interest was in having further debate on other items in the bylaw, when you consider bylaw number 298, the usual process is to give a bylaw first two readings and then to consider amendments. So when you get down to that one, if you want to give it the two readings and then get into discussion about, I can't remember which section you thought maybe shouldn't be in there, then, you know, certainly that's something that can happen with bylaw 298.
Okay, so through to Councillor Gusselbrook, you had your hand up.
Yeah, we have the staff opinion. They have a legal opinion. One counselor stepped out with an apparent or potential conflict. This is all very easy. You rescind what we did before, and you'll get a second at-bat. Follow in item number 9F, which is basically the same bylaw. We've had all the discussions on it last meeting, so that should be fairly simple to get that passed again and move on with the meeting. So when staff gives you advice, I don't know why we wouldn't follow it. And when there's a vote, I'd like a recorded vote, please.
Through to, actually, do we do through to Director Coates? I thought that we had that struck from the procedure bylaw. Pardon me?
That was taken out of the bylaw, the procedure bylaw. However, I guess under Roberts, if there was a request, that's council's decision.
Sure. All right, further debate, comments? Okay, hearing or seeing none, I will move to calling the question. So we're voting on rescinding. So all those in favor and opposed, no, Mayor Swain's opposed, Councillor Savage is opposed. The rescinding motion fails on a tie vote. And a recorded vote has been requested. I don't think we need to do a motion on that. So to say Councillors Proctor and Gusselbrook are in favor, and opposed Mayor Swain and Councillor Savage. Okay, so that takes us on to 9E, and we'll have to get Councillor Wilson back in, please. Okay, so we are on 9E of our agenda, so we have bylaw number 294. I'll just simply make the motion that the District of Lantzville Council Remuneration Bylaw number 170, 2018 amendment, open bracket, mayor remuneration, close bracket, bylaw number 294, 2021 be adopted. Do I have a seconder to that? Seconded by Councillor Wilson. We're at adoption, so I'll move to calling the question. All those in favor and opposed? Okay, that's carried unanimously. That takes us on to bylaw number 298. So we have, so through to staff, how does this work now?
Well, the way it's always worked, that at first and second reading, it's just the bylaw saying, you know, if you get a mover and seconder for first and second reading, you would proceed to vote on that. That's not a debate. That's not where you do amendments. And then you can do the amendments after the second reading?
Okay,
Thank you.
yeah. All right, so go ahead, Councillor Gusbart.
Thank you. I'll make the motion that the District of
Yeah,
Lantzville...
so, excuse me, sorry for interrupting. A point of order, please.
Oh, what's
Just
the point
for
of order?
Clarification. We are on bylaw number 298 now, is that correct?
That is correct.
First and second reading. Well, I'm not sure how on earth we can go to first and second reading on this when it says bylaw number 298 is identical to former bylaw number 290, with the exception of the removed of the new definition for automotive repair. So in my mind, a bylaw...
Okay, so we're not going to debate it right now, Councillor Savage, but in terms of the bylaw, I think the easiest way of rationalizing this, and staff, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a new bylaw. So
It's just, my point was that bylaw 290 is still active. It has not been rescinded, and it's identical to this one. So how on earth can you pass a new bylaw
okay,
that's
so just 2
identical
seconds,
to...
and then
Yeah.
through to Director Coates.
Just for clarity, these aren't bylaws until they've gone through 4 readings. So it's not unusual. In fact, I've even seen us take property tax exemption bylaws forward together, and then council at some point abandons one of them. We've got legal advice on following this process, if you don't want to rely on staff's advice, but it's not unusual.
Yeah, thank you for the clarification. Appreciate it.
Okay, so Councillor Gusbart, go ahead and make the motion, please.
Thank you. That the District of Lantzville zoning bylaw number 180, 2020, amendment miscellaneous bylaw number 298, 2021 be given first and second reading.
And that's second by Councillor Proctor. Okay, and again, discussion on the motion, and as we've heard from staff, it would be out of order to consider any amendments at first and second reading. Is that correct through to staff?
Yes, that's what council has in their procedure bylaw. At first reading, the bylaw will be introduced by title only and will not be debated. At second reading, the bylaw will be read by title only unless council resolves that it be read in whole or in part and to consider the body of the bylaw.
Okay, thank you. All right, so for discussion, so through to Councillor Gusbart as mover, and then Councillor Proctor as the seconder.
Yes, thank you. As Councillor Savage pointed out, this is a different bylaw, and there's a section that has been removed regarding the definition of auto repair. We had quite a bit of discussion last time. There was various parts to this bylaw. One was the trailer park off of Clark Drive. There was mostly other housing.
Again, I do apologize for interrupting. I don't believe we've made the motion yet on this one. I interrupted while you were just about to make the motion.
And-
I believe it was moved and
And you've
seconded.
interrupted again. so
Hold on.
Where
just-
are we?
It was moved and seconded, I believe. Yeah, Councillor Proctor seconded, yeah. And then we broke into that earlier discussion. So go ahead, Councillor Gusbart.
Anything else?
Okay, Councillor Gusbart,
Thank
let's
you.
focus on the task at hand, please.
So hopefully we can skip some of the discussion, but we'll see. And I'll be supporting this.
Okay, through to Councillor Proctor as seconder.
I don't have anything at this time.
Okay, and through to the rest of the council. Okay, Councillor Savage, go ahead.
Yes, just for clarification again, please, through to staff, I'm puzzled over this idea that we can't have amendments to this at first and second reading, because that's exactly what we did with Bylaw 290, was it not? We made a number of amendments, or attempted to, and
Yes, council did do that, and I apologized to the mayor afterwards that I wasn't on the ball and raising my hand and reminding council of the procedure bylaw and the past advice that we've been providing, that it's very clear that you don't amend bylaws at first reading. It says bylaw will be introduced by title only and will not be debated. This is council's procedure bylaw. I don't think it could be any clearer.
oh, okay, so just to further clarify then, so all these other times over the past while, we've made amendments to first and second reading, what you're saying is that was not in keeping with our procedure bylaw?
I don't think it's been happening regularly. I think most times we have advised council or tried to catch council's attention to advise council. But if council does something, then, that's you. I'm not sure what it is you're looking for.
Yeah, well, no, I'm just trying to clarify the policy because we've done it before, that's all.
Yes, and
So
it's
what
not
you-
policy, it's procedure bylaw I'm quoting from.
Yeah, so what you're advising and is not to do this anymore?
Yes, as we have advised in the past, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so through to you, Councillor Savage, really this is the time, if there's any specific questions for staff regarding the proposed bylaw, to ask those, and then if there's any early on debate you want to present to council, then you can do that as well.
Yeah, so we're permitted to discuss it then.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so no, I certainly won't be supporting this because one of the key things here is this should be going to public hearing. It's in particular the...
So Councillor Savage, that's the next part of this motion. So that's under, I guess it'd be F2, Roman numeral 2. That's the next motion. And it's the second half of the next motion.
Oh, yes, well,
regarding
that's
waiving the
fine,
public
but
hearing.
I won't even be presenting, I won't even be supporting the first one because of this public hearing aspect to it, waiving the public hearing as well. I don't believe in rewarding someone that's been in contravention of what he was advised to do as far
Point of order.
back.
Okay, so point of order has been called, so Councillor Gaspard.
If we're going to be throwing personal darts back and forth, then I'm going to ask for a ruling. I would ask the chair remind Councillor Savage, stick to the motion.
Yeah. So thank you, Councillor Gaspard. So through to you, Councillor Savage. I don't know where you're going with
Yeah,
that
no,
comment or who the
so with
reference is.
this property, did not abide by what it was asked to do back in 2014. It was in contravention of bylaws. Those bylaws were never, these contraventions were never remedied. Therefore, I'm not prepared to reward what I don't consider to be a mobile home park in any respect whatsoever, that it be deemed an existing mobile home park. So that is a key reason that I won't be supporting this at all. And that is the major thing in here, and then as well as I mentioned, the waiving, so I won't be supporting this. Thank you.
Okay. So Director Coates, you had your hand up.
I just wanted to reiterate the importance of council basing their decision on a land use issue. not on a bylaw enforcement issue. We've received advice in the past, even for Board of Variance, that when they're considering an application, you're considering the merits of the land use question. You're not attempting to shoehorn in punitive bylaw enforcement procedures. It was always council's decision of what action, if any, you took at that time. And
Yes, a point of order,
it's not a land
please.
use
Point of
issue.
order is being called, so go ahead,
Yeah,
Councillor.
I don't appreciate what I said being clarified. That way it's something I do
Okay,
not do.
Councillor Savage, we're not going to have a back and forth between council and staff, so I think, okay, through to the gallery, I need the gallery not to be speaking during the council meetings, please. If you have something to say, please take it outside. Through to staff, again, I think the advice has been given, so thank you. And Councillor Savage, continue.
Yeah, no, that's it. It's just that I do not consider this property to be a mobile home park. That's why it's going from residential 1, which is 2 lots per acre, to a mobile home park zone, is because the reason we were given that this was being proposed is this was deemed to be an existing mobile home park. And I gave the reasons why I do not consider it so, because there's only been one building permit issued approved for everything that's on this property. So that's why I'm saying I don't deem it to be a mobile home park. I deem it to be unauthorized placement of campers, trailers that you tow with a car, RVs, boat storage, unauthorized sheds with tarps. It just does not rise to what I consider a mobile home park. That's why I'm opposing this, because it's zoned R1, and that's how it should remain without good reason to change. Thank you.
Okay, additional speakers on this item. For myself, I won't be supporting first and second reading, simply for the reason I believe that this Blackjack Drive mobile home park needs to be split out from the bylaw, or the zoning bylaw amendment itself. It is more of a controversial part of this amendment bylaw. It doesn't belong in there. So, we've done it now with automotive repair. I just think we need to be removing that piece out. And if it passes, I guess we can maybe entertain that at a third reading, but I just can't even support moving forward with it as it stands. In my opinion, I believe we need to look at a lot of these, we can do them independently. Now we are considering waiving public hearings. It's more of just a general housekeeping thing. I do understand that it's going to require some staff time to process some of these, in smaller batches, if you want to say that. But I think it's probably the easier way of going about it, rather than trying to lump too many of them together, and especially when we're lumping this one in. So that's all I have to say about this at this time. So, unless there's any further comments from council or debate, I will move to calling the question on first and second reading.
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify that if council, after you voted on this, if council wished to put forward amendments, you have the ability to do that. You don't have to wait till third reading.
Okay, thank you. Through to council, any further comment, debate? Okay, hearing none, I will move to calling question. This is just on first and second reading. All those in favor?
Sorry, point of clarification.
Yeah, go
We're
ahead.
just voting on I, right?
Yeah, just the first
Okay.
motion, yes. All right, so I'll move to calling question. All those in favor and opposed? Noting Mayor Swain's opposed, Councillor Savage is opposed. That carries. That takes us on to the second motion. Councillor Kesselbrecht, go ahead.
The District of Lantzville zoning bylaw number 180, 2020, amendment miscellaneous, bylaw number 290 to 2021 is consistent with the District of Lantzville official community plan, bylaw number 150, 219.
So through to Councillor Gusbrook, just being clear, you're intentionally leaving the second half out? Okay. Do we have a seconder to that motion? Okay, second by Councillor Proctor. Discussion on the motion. Go through to you, Councillor Gusbrook, and then Councillor Proctor.
Yes, when we do the amendments, if we're amending the zoning bylaw, we also have to decide whether it's consistent with the official community plan. We've done this on other applications, motions, so that's what this part of the motion is, that it is consistent with the official community plan.
Okay, and Councillor Proctor.
I don't have anything.
Okay, and through the rest of the council. So Councillor Savage, go ahead.
Yes, that's the essence of it. I don't consider this in keeping or compliant with the official community plan because, as I say, the main item here, which is not, is the mobile home park, and it all comes down to, is this deemed to be an existing mobile home park or not? And in my mind, it's not, for the reasons I cited previously about not having building permits and so on and so forth. So that's critical to me that it's not compliant with the OCP, so I won't be supporting it. Thank you.
Okay, any additional speakers? Councillor Proctor, go ahead.
So I just have a question through you to staff. If we pass this without the part about the public hearing, that means we'll be proceeding to a public hearing? Thank you.
Any additional questions, comments, debate, council?
Can you please repeat that?
The way the motion was made, where we left out the part and further that we waive a
Just need your
public hearing?
mic. Okay. Sorry,
is
the Kleenex
on.
box is in the way. Can't see the light.
Yeah.
Sorry.
If the way the motion's made, this will be proceeding to a public hearing? Yes, public hearing.
I should have prefaced that with, unless you immediately follow this motion with another motion.
Yeah, that'll be through to council.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so any further questions, comments, debate on this? Okay, hearing none, I will move to call in question. All those in favor and opposed? Mayor Swain's opposed, Councillor Savage opposed, it carries. So there's a remaining and further that, so I'm just going to put it out there to council. And if there's no action taken on it, we'll just abandon that part of the motion. Okay, hearing, seeing nothing, we'll move on. So that takes us on to item 12. Oh, hold on, make sure I got 9G. So we have the development variance permit application for 7702 Lantzville Road. So I'll just make the motion. Sorry, I just got to go to page 31. Okay, so I'll make the motion that the issuance of the development variant permit number DVP 21-1 for 7702 Lantzville Road be issued to Sheila Braden Sear and Kevin Lukovi. And that, I don't think I need the other, well, I guess, do I need the other part? That the owners would be permitted to construct a carriage house on the property. So that's the motion. So seconded by Councillor Gusselbrecht. Discussion on the motion. We'll lead it off, I suppose. Yeah, this one's pretty straightforward in my opinion. I understand staff has they've given us a pretty good report on this one. One of the biggest concerns had to do with the fire department and having access down that road. There's a number of homes that are on that road, and the fire department's just concerned that of having safe, or I guess easy access to make sure that people have safe access to fire protection. So so I understand the concern there, and in our bylaws themselves, you know, the way it works with roads, or I guess strata roads, is you're only have a limited number of homes that can have the strata road and so forth. So I understand the concerns and issues around this one, and I appreciate the compassionate grounds on which this application has come forward. So I will be proposing an amendment to this one, but I just wanted to get it on the floor, start the discussion, and then hear from council. So through to council, I think Councillor Gusbrook, you were a seconder. Oh, you seconded that one. Yeah, Councillor Gusbrook, you seconded. So go ahead if you wish, and then through the rest of council. So No, through the rest of council, okay, Councillor Savage.
Yes, I'm highly in support of this permit. This application is a perfect example of why we have a system for variances. Every resident of the Blowhorn neighborhood, lovely neighborhood that it is given written support of this. There's also a very well-written report by Town Site Planning giving a well-reasoned justification for the variance. So I certainly want to see this project move ahead to completion. It's what makes a community, giving support to those who need it. So I'm all in favor. Thank you.
Okay, additional discussion on this item? Okay, hearing none. Yeah, so my only concern about this one is just has to do with, kind of going against our own bylaw on this, and with respect to the construction of the carriage house, and if should we run into a similar situation where we don't have the compassionate grounds, we could land ourselves into a bit of a tricky situation, as we could be potentially setting a precedent here. So the amendment I'm prepared to make is that, so the motion on the floor be further amended by that a 219 covenant be registered on title, that the carriage house, might need some help from staff on this one, that the carriage house constructed is in compliance with the variance application. I think that would be probably in order. So through to Director Limshu. Maybe does that work? That a 219 covenant be registered just to make sure that the intended use remains, should there be a future sale and down the road?
Just for clarification, are you requesting that the covenant speaks specifically to the intended use being for family purposes and not for market rental?
Yeah, that'd be correct. Yes. Yeah.
So certainly we can have a Section 219 covenant registered on title to reflect those conditions.
Okay.
If that's the wish of council.
Okay, so that's the amendment I'm wishing to make, is that a 219 covenant being registered on title to reflect basically the request for the variance, which is, as you stated, Director Limshu. So do I have a seconder to that? So second by Councillor Proctor. Discussion on the amendment. So for myself, again, it's pretty straightforward, because I think we're granting this on the compassionate grounds. That seems to be a big part of the application. There's huge support for residents and immediate neighbors in that neighborhood as well. I just think it doesn't open the door to set this unrealistic expectation, especially when we're going against the recommendation of our fire department. I just hate to see us be dealing with these similar applications down the road, and by doing this, I believe we're somewhat setting a precedent. So, Councillor Gusselbrecht, go ahead.
Yes, I'm a little bit concerned because there is nothing in the staff report about a covenant. There is nothing in the Town Site Planning's report about a covenant. And my concern is this: is the covenant going to say that only this family can occupy the carriage house? What happens if the owners decide to sell the property? That means nobody can live in the carriage house. So, that, and I'm not being facetious, how do you word Section 219 covenant? Because I guess what I'm concerned with is I don't understand the full extent of the mayor's amendment. Is this limiting to the one family? What happens if there's a sale? What happens if there's other family members that wish to live in the carriage house? How do you deal with that? And that's a question through to staff.
Go ahead, Director Limshu.
So as an option for council to consider, perhaps if it's the wish of council, staff can certainly go back and have discussions with the applicant to see whether or not we can come up with wording that is satisfactory for council moving forward and bring the application back forward for consideration.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor
So
Gusbert.
further to that, I think, now, we haven't voted on the main motion yet. Is that correct?
That is correct. We're just on the amendment.
I would, rather than making a motion right now, I'd like to see that we pass the motion, but we defer the wording of a Section 219 covenant to staff, which would then come back to council to consider. Now, having said that, I don't know if there's any time constraints in starting building that would hold it up, because this will be our last meeting before the Christmas break. I don't know, maybe it's all flooded down there right now, but I'm just worried. I don't want to hold up the owners if they want to get going on it, but I think, would that work? We post. All right. I hear people shouting outside. I hear my name being shouted, and I'd like the mayor or staff to deal with that. It seems to be a demonstration. I don't feel comfortable if there's a demonstration, not just a demonstration, an insurrection going out there, because we all have to leave this building. Thank you. I'd ask that we take an adjournment of 10 minutes and deal with this.
Okay, so a request for a recess is being asked, so that's fine. We'll recess till, I guess, 7:15. That should probably be sufficient, and we'll see what's going on.
So if I could,
Right, so I'm going to call this meeting back to order, noting that the time is now 7:09, so through to you, Councillor Gusbert.
thank you. I know I'm thinking out loud here, but what I'd like to see is that we pass the variance motion, and then if council would like to make the amendment afterwards, that staff come back with that section 219. I don't know if that'd work, or if my concern is unfounded.
I would defer to Director Limshew on that, but my understanding is once we've issued the development permit, there'd be no basis for the section 219 afterwards, like no way to compel the applicant to agree for the registration. But if council wants to postpone this, then staff can get some legal advice on wording, because it is a touchy issue anytime you're mentioning people in a covenant.
You know, I don't want to hold this up, and I feel confident that staff could probably work this out with the proponents, so I won't make any further motion.
Okay. Yeah, like I have confidence in staff that they will work out an appropriate 219 covenant to cover the spirit of the basically what's being asked for the variance permit application. So Director Limshue's already given us a taste of that wordsmithing this evening. So I have full confidence that staff will be able to work out some 219 covenant to, again, capture the spirit of the actual, why we're moving forward with this. So unless there's any, Councillor Savage, go ahead.
Yes, my view on this, and with respect to, I know what you may be trying to achieve, is we not do this at all. I think once it's built, the family, if it's no longer for a family member at some point, has every right to use it as a rental or whatever they choose to. And the reason for that, this is not a major variance. We're not allowing a carriage house on an undersized property or to changing setbacks and so on. This is simply a road access issue and nothing else. And that, yes, the road down there may be a little less than the width required, but that would affect houses without carriage houses in terms of fire department issues just as much as a carriage house. And I think we can solve this much better by just, with the next application, judging it on its merits. If it's just purely for a rental or financial reasons, then we could turn it down at that point. We still have control over these things. We're not setting a cemented precedent here. So I think it's important just to really keep this simple. It's not a major variance whatsoever. It's just a slight preference as to not having too many more homes, abodes, and so on down at the bottom there. So I would really support just leaving it as it is and moving ahead without any strings attached. It seems perfectly reasonable to me, and it's quite precedent setting that every single neighbor down there has supported it. So I would leave this issue for the future if it gets to be too onerous a problem with too many people taking advantage of variances and carriage houses, but I don't think we're anywhere near that now. So I would just support this clean and not complicated, because it does get into complications in terms of supervising and so on. One can't monitor properties continually if there's suddenly a change of tenant in there and so on. So I would just pass it clean for the long term now, although I appreciate what you're trying to accomplish, Mayor Swain. I think this is better done on a case-by-case basis rather than a covenant on the property. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Wilson, go ahead.
Yeah, I fully agree with Councillor Savage's assessment. I think that seems to me like a one-off, and we're looking at this on compassionate grounds. So no, I can totally support this. I don't think that we need to get into to complicate it. Let's just make it simple, and I'll be supporting this motion without any covenant on it.
Okay. So through to council, I think, you know what, listening to the debate here, I think the need for the 219 covenant maybe isn't as strong as I thought it once thought it was. It's really just identifying, that we could be running into a problem with other properties, not necessarily this one. I don't think the property owner is going to go through the significant expense of building a carriage house just to, flip the house or do something like that. So I believe that, the applicant will be building this home and they're going to be there for many years. So I'm not concerned about that. It's just more the precedent regarding other properties down the road. So I will call unless there's anything further, I will call the question on the amendment. So all those in favor and opposed, noting that I believe that's unanimously opposed. Now we're back to the main motion. I will, unless there's any further debate, I will move to calling the question. Okay, so I'm going to call the question. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. All right. Jumping to 12, make sure I got it. Sorry, 10A, yeah. So we have a local area service process for information. So staff has provided us with a report for local area service. It's on page 57 of our agenda. Through to councilors, any questions through to staff on this? For myself, thank you to staff for actually doing this. I was actually quite impressed when I read this because it's just laid out very logically, and I think any member of the public can pick this up and make sense of what a local area service is and how to proceed ahead with it. So again, I appreciate staff taking the time to put this into writing, and yeah, it's good. So thank you. So I don't really have any questions, but Councillor Savage?
Yes, I'd also like to thank staff for the report. Very good. And that's a real key, is now the public has it all laid out so they know basically the steps to get it done. That's the important part to me. Thank you.
Okay, anything further from council or before we move on? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to 12A of the agenda. So we have Mayor and Council verbal updates. So we'll go to Councillor Gusselbreck right away. You have an update for us?
Thank you. A lot of interesting reports come through the RDN, both at the board and at the other select committees like Parks and Rec, Solid Waste, Liquid Waste committees. What I've attached tonight to tonight's agenda is a snippet from a report which was a needs assessment and strategy report, which was basically the snapshot of the social needs here in the regional district of Nanaimo. And I won't spend a lot of time. This was from the November 23rd RDN board meeting, and the report starts at page 59 for anyone who wishes to read it in full. Page 7 indicates the indicators of poverty in the RDN. How many adults between the ages of 18 and 64 are living in a low-income home? You can see that for the RDN. You can see the Island Health Region, BC, and as well a target that the RDN would like to reach. I won't read through these. It's there for your reading. Page 11 is a chart talking about the social determinants of health here in the RDN, and they list them: family and social support, housing, safety and security, food security, education, and income. All of these items which affect us in our daily lives and affect the other residents here. The last page, page 64 of the agenda, or page 135 of the report, talks about the interesting statement there that the natural increase in growth, that is deaths versus births in the RDN, are in the negative, with more deaths than births in the region, particularly in the Qualicum Beach, Parksville, Area B, which is Gabriola, DeCourcy, and that the current population of 179,000 in the RDN is estimated to grow by the year 2026 to 193,000. The median age in the RDN is 51 in the RDN, whereas in BC as a whole, it's 43, according to the 2016 census. A quarter of the overall population is 65 years or older, and that projections are that the people over the age of 65 will be 35% by the year 2041. There's a chart here showing where each of the municipalities and electoral districts in the RDN, what their mean age is. When you see at the bottom, Lantzville has a median age of the median age is 51% of the population, which is was right on the dot with the RDN. The other municipalities, especially Qualicum Beach, have a 65% median age or older. So for those who wish to read it, thank you.
Okay, through to Councillor Wilson. Councillor Proctor. Councillor Savage.
Yes, thank you. Christmas is upon us once again. And just a reminder of the following Christmas events. We've got Saturday, December the 11th, the Rotary Breakfast with Santa at 9 a.m. Sunday, December the 12th, the food drive with the Rotary and the volunteer firefighters. And Saturday, December the 18th, 2 p.m., the Christmas parade, so I'd also like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy Hanukkah. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, for myself, I'll keep this pretty short. A couple weeks back, I did a little presentation to the grade 6 classes at Aspen Grove School. That was pretty neat. Had an opportunity to have a nice fulsome tour of the facility and their new gymnasium. And it's quite if you ever have the chance to go and look at their gymnasium, it's quite a beautiful building. Excellent. So, and I was also able to be a guest and to their Remembrance Day ceremony, which was really neat to see. And there lots of creative things that the students did that day to acknowledge Remembrance Day. So. Other than that, not a whole lot coming forward. Obviously, this is our last meeting of 2021, and how fitting to actually have people in the gallery this evening. So it's the first meeting in a long time where we've actually had people here, aside from council and actually all of council here this evening as well. So I think as COVID, we'll see where it goes, but there's lots of turns and swerves and all that with COVID and new variants and so on, but hopeful for 2022 that we'll continue to have more people gathering here in our council chambers and as we conduct our business. Other than that, Councillor Savage has mentioned the Christmas tree light-ups coming up, and other than that, again, I wish everybody all the best for this holiday season coming up, and we'll be back in 2022 in chambers, and hopefully everybody will be back in person as well. So I think we've got a few more things on our agenda this evening, so we'll move into 12B, which is the 2022 council meeting schedule. And really this is for discussion. We have the 9 a.m. January 19, 2022 strategic planning session for council confirmation before proceeding to schedule the consultants. So staff has the time and date there, so January 19th at 9 a.m. to do strategic planning. It's really the will of council. What are we doing? So through Councillor Proctor, and then we can have a discussion.
I have a question through you to staff. How long are you anticipating the strategic planning session will take?
Your Worship, through you to council and to Councillor Proctor, what we're actually suggesting now is that council go forward and use that day for strategic planning, but simply for two things. One, to prioritize your existing strategic plan items, and two, to provide direction to staff concerning your acquisition of the new waterfront park. We've got some money budgeted for that to do some work, but we don't know what council's direction is as far as creating that park. So we'd like to go forward with that date, but rather than the strategic planning and hiring a consultant, just have those two items for council to deal with.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Gusselbrook.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Was that the marine park that we're talking about?
Correct.
Okay, any additional discussion? Councillor Savage, go ahead.
Yes, through chair to staff, did I hear that correctly, that we are not proceeding with the consultant this year?
That's correct. Rather than having a consultant coming in on January 19th, I have two items for council. One is to prioritize the existing strategic priorities that you have, so we'll continue working on them through the next year, and also to give staff direction concerning your new park acquisition, as we don't have really any direction from council as to what you want to see us do with that park area.
Yeah, okay, I certainly agree with that. So where it says in the agenda for council confirmation before proceeding to schedule consultant, we can just ignore that then?
The consultant part of that, yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you. That was my concern. The consultant, Mayor Swain, I think can do a great job with that just on his own, so that's great. Look forward to it. Thank you.
Okay, so through to staff, are you looking for some kind of motion, or just by, do you just want staff or council to respond?
Council has already scheduled this date.
Yeah.
So as long as council's fine with that, what the CAO has proposed, we'll just
Okay.
proceed to plan for that. And we just wanted to make sure that you weren't expecting us to hire a consultant for a full planning session.
So really, I guess if anybody feels so inclined to make a motion to hire a consultant, then this would be the time to make it. Otherwise, we'll just move on in the agenda. Okay, that's hearing nothing. We'll move on in the agenda then. So we have under 13, introduction of late items. Any late items to introduce? Okay, hearing none. Moving on to notices of motion. Any notices of motion? And now we're into public clarification. Is there any public clarification this evening? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to adjournment. So we've completed our agenda, so I declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Recording stopped.